Hello, my loves. It is a new season, a Lunar New Year 2022. It may be Groundhog's Day, but this is a show that you may not mind listening to over and over and over again. Let's get to it.
Danielle, Mercury, it's time for the show. Danielle, welcome to the show. Danielle, Mercury, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
All right, my loves, once again, welcome to the show. New season, new year, all the things, right? And I am here actually recording this in Charleston, got out of the house in Greenville, here with my new sidekick, Azaria. She doesn't speak too much. She gives a little woof here and there, but she keeps quiet. But she's by my side. She's listening intently, and she's very excited that we get to go OUT after this. So I couldn't, when I was thinking about relaunching this podcast, of course, I had to do it on a magical day, and 2022 just felt really ripe and juicy. So we're going to use this time together to break down the synergy of the number 2, how it's significant in 2022, what we can look forward to in February, the fact that we just had a freaking Lunar New Year, Year of the Tiger. What? Cue the Rocky theme. And go into a little bit of getting over your own personal Groundhog's Day. Is anyone else kind of feeling like, as of lately, life is just kind of day in and day out, and you're kind of in your groove, which is great, but also not so great, especially if you kind of considered yourself to be a person that used to kind of be more impulsive or go with the flow or spontaneous or always making plans or having things to look forward to, and your life has kind of been boxed in and kind of fallen into this complacent yet safe kind of flow where things are good, but they're not expansive. Maybe they're not feeling grand, or maybe you're feeling really optimistic, but you don't even know what to do with that optimism. You feel like there's so much you want to uncover and move through in this year ahead, but like you can't seem to get your energy and your levels on board with what you're feeling. Does that resonate? Can you feel that? Yes? Okay, I totally got you. So let's break this all down, but let's start with the magic of what just happened. And that was our Lunar New Year. Now, January, from an astrological perspective, isn't really a new year. This year in 2022, we did have a new moon in Capricorn on January 2nd. So that was significant from the space of, okay, new year from the Gregorian societal calendar. And then one day later, astrologically, we had a new moon in Capricorn. So that did kind of help get the show running, so to speak, kind of put us into that space of newness, freshness. 2022 is all about learning and recognizing how to harmonize your life, lead more with your heart, understand that love holds a purpose in everything that you do. It's also about growth. But in order for us to really uncover all of those things, this January wasn't really about let's do all the things now. January is a 1 month, right? Every time you write down the date, you write 1 first. That means January is 1 day at a time. And that's how it should have been for us, 1 day at a time. There were retrogrades loaded within that. And, we needed to be in a space where we could honor our pace, honor the need to rest, honor this idea of recovery. Because we're about to go into, a couple years of this pandemic, and there were things that you may not have grieved yet. There are many of you that haven't taken a break yet or caught your breath. And the hope, as we started out this new year, was to feel that encouragement and that sense of like, if I don't take time off, I'm going to run out of time. If I don't make the time, time will make a disaster out of me. Because if we don't make ourselves a priority, if we don't look at our to-do list and bump up the things that we constantly ignore because we say everything else is more important, then everything else is more important. And we are constantly communicating not just to the universe, but to ourselves that what we want doesn't matter. What we want isn't a priority. What we want can happen later. But we all know when we say, oh, I'll do that later. How many times do you actually do the thing later? Oh, yeah, I'll get to that later. I'm just going to do this first. Do you really get to that thing later? Or does that later become tomorrow? And that tomorrow becomes the weekend. And that weekend becomes the next week. And that next week becomes the next month. And before you know it, your thing that you were going to do later is now looming over you in the freaking new year. And so if we don't check in with ourselves, if we don't really get a handle on what we're not properly actualizing into our life, what we're ignoring, if we're not willing to get real and honest with ourselves, then we are going to continuously fall into a trap or we're not quite getting where we want to be. And January hopefully was that reset and that understanding for you that my life isn't sustainable, not only from an energetic perspective, but also when it comes to manifesting and moving forward and advancing into the life I want. Is my energy really on board with the life I see for myself? That's a big question we have to ask ourselves because we can see it in our mind's eye. We can go into that space of meditation. We can visualize. We can make the freaking, vision board, so to speak. But when it comes down to it, is your energy an equal match for the things that you want? Or is your energy still fueled by the past, by old patterns, by the lack of recognition of what needs to change, by always saying, I'll get to it later? If you're always saying I get to it later, guess what your vision board's saying? Basically, you should make a vision board and at the top just put, I'll get to this later. How would that feel? How would it feel to create your grand vision board, to write everything out in your journal, to make your this is what's going to happen list? And then at the top, you write, I'll get to it later. It disempowers the entire process. It sabotages the experience. It dims your light automatically. As soon as you put, I'll get to it later, everything that you just visualize turns to gray. It shuts down. It's not as powerful and it becomes less of a priority. So notice where you do those things. Look at your everyday life. It's so important that we do that. It's so easy to look ahead and be like, oh my gosh, I want this, I want that. I see this for myself. That's great. But what is the reality of your current life? I talk about this a lot with money. You can say, oh my gosh, I want to make 200K this year, 500K this year, 7 figures. Great. But what's your relationship with your money today? Do you look at your bank account or you say, oh, I'll look at it later? I'll pay my bills later. That right there is an indicator of how you handle money. And it's really hard to bring in more money if you're always in that energy of, oh, I'll get to it later. Oh, I missed a payment. Oh, I did this. Oh, we have to really look at what our current way of living is. That comes to lifestyle, that comes to our habits, that comes to our finances, that comes to our standard of living. What does your current life look like? Because that's going to be a reflection of what you currently have the space for, what you currently tolerate. Look at your current life. That is what you have the space for. That is what you currently tolerate. Now, if you want more for your life than what you currently have, then you get really clear on what you'd like to expand into. And you remove the I'll get to it later and say, this is my life that's happening now. Not only my current life that I have the bandwidth for, but the life that I'm moving into. And the life that I'm moving into can't be knocked off the list, can't be something that I get to later, can't be something that I don't really make a priority because it won't happen. And I will just stay in this current threshold of what I'm allowing. I totally believe that everything is possible, but you have to notice where your energy contracts, where it restricts you when it comes to what you need. Do you notice you saying things like, I can't afford that? Okay, then I guess you can't. You're still living in the limitations of your current life. And in the limitations of your current life, you can't afford that. So by saying that, you're making that statement true. Maybe one day I can afford it. I'll afford it later. But for right now, I can't afford it. So I'm going to make that my truth. Even if you don't really mean it, you have to watch your language. You have to stop yourself and say, maybe you can't, maybe technically it's not in your budget right now, but you're working towards it. Today, it's not an aligned match for me. Today, it doesn't make sense for me to invest in this. However, I'm looking forward to making that happen. Okay? Like an example could be like, let's say like a session with me. You want to book a session with me. You could look at my prices and you can say, oh, Danielle, I can't afford it. I really want to work with you one day. I really want to work with you. I really want to do a session with you, but I can't afford it. Okay, I guess you can't. So why are we even having this conversation? Not to be rude, but why can't we? And anybody that's ever said that to me, I've never done a session with, but I can't tell you how many times I've had people reach out to me and say, Danielle, I want to work with you. Right now, it's not aligned, but it will be. And when it is, you better believe I'm booking with you. And I guarantee anyone that said that to me has talked to me. And usually it's way sooner than they even thought. Why? Because they allowed the space for it. They made it a priority. They acknowledged their worth and what they wanted. And they made it happen. Instead of that limitation that I can't afford it. There are no jobs where I live. There is no this. Stop it. Same with relationships. I was on a call with someone yesterday and they said, I really want partnership. And we were talking about their astro mapping and this individual was on their moon line, which could be a great place for partnership. And they were like, oh, but in my area, it's not good for relationships. It's not good for meeting people. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, well, okay. And so it is. I guess you're stuck. I guess you're screwed because in your area, it's not good for meeting people. As opposed to letting life show you what it's capable of. Let life take you by surprise. If you live somewhere and you want to meet someone, open up into that. Instead of looking at it under a microscope and taking statistics to prove your theory wrong. We're so quick to prove our theory of our life wrong. We're so quick to judge it. We're so quick to dismiss it. We're so quick to say, it's not possible here. Well, then great. Then why do you even want partnership? I'm confused. If you really wanted partnership, you would say, hey, so far, love hasn't come my way. I haven't found partnership here. However, I'm so open to how this could go down because I can't figure it out. But I know if I feel that relationship deep down, it's possible. It's happening. That person is going to come in and take me by surprise. And likely, it's going to happen organically. And it's going to happen in a way I couldn't have expected because the only ways I expected were that it wasn't going to happen. So now that I'm changing my thinking around and saying I'm open to it happening, it can happen. Opportunity lends itself to you when you give it a chance. But if you limit it, the door is closed. And I find that we've become a little more pessimistic or a little bit more limited over the past couple of years, and rightfully so. Going through what we've been going through, there have been forced limitations, restrictions, mandates, control, worrying, am I sick? Am I not? Could I get this person sick? There's so many questions around, am I doing the right thing? Or what is the right thing? Or what does that mean? How do I navigate this in a way that is safe? And we've created these little safety bubbles for ourselves, but these safety bubbles are becoming kind of this Groundhog's Day, right? Where we're becoming kind of trapped into the day to day, like we've created a new norm, so to speak, so that we can kind of coincide with how the world is handling the pandemic. Yet, how we're coinciding with how the world is handling the pandemic can sometimes make you feel like you're a little bit in Groundhog's Day. Like it's a little hard to commit to something new, that you're a little bit hesitant to make new plans, that you want to say yes to things, but you're afraid, what if I say yes and I get sick? What if I say yes and someone has to cancel? What if I, do this and then, the trip doesn't happen? What if, and there's all these what ifs of what could go wrong. And we're giving a lot of our power to the what ifs. We're giving a lot of power to what's been going on as opposed to saying like, this is the reality of our world right now. Just like I was asking you a few minutes ago to say, take inventory of your current life, because by taking inventory of your current life, you'll see what you have the bandwidth for. You see what you're allowing to happen, right? If you look at your life, just look at the last 7 days. The last 7 days are a more clear example of your life than any other period. Okay. We're not going to talk about like childhood stuff and all that, right? We're just talking about the last 7 days. The last 7 days are a huge reflection. You can say, oh, no, but there was this one. No. The last 7 days of your life, look at them right now. Literally, look at them. That is a huge reflection of what you are tolerating currently in your life. And yes, it could stem from childhood. It could stem from trauma. It could, there's a lot of stuff we can look at, but it doesn't matter, because the reality is the last 7 days are how you've been living your life as of now. And if you're not on board with that, if it's feeling Groundhog's Day, then we got to change that up, right? So by taking inventory of your life, then also taking inventory of our collective life, we have to make decisions and say, okay, this is how the world collectively seems to hold space right now, seems to operate right now, seems to have the bandwidth for right now. And I can make a choice. I can give my power away to that, which I've personally tried, and it sucked because I feel like it's backfired so many times. So many times I've trusted what the outside world has told me to do. And I wind up being in this space of lack, in this space of feeling depressed, alone, isolated. And this isn't about like being safe. Okay. This is beyond that. All right. Like I am responsible and I know that, but I let the outside world say that I wasn't responsible. I let the outside world dictate so much of my life that wasn't true. And then I realized how it was leaking into my own life, and it was creating a really off synergy. So it's really important that you look at the outside world and you look at it from a responsible, practical lens, and you compare it to your current life and say, with what's going on in the world, with what's going on in my current life, where can change happen? Where can I allow myself to get out of my comfort zone that has been created? Where can I make a new commitment? Where can I be open to change? Where can I trust that I'm still allowed to grow and prosper and expand in these times? If now, when? Because otherwise you're going to keep waiting around. You're going to keep being in that later energy. Well, let's wait and see. Just make the commitment. And if it has to change, it has to change. You'll deal with it, as opposed to stalling, as opposed to saying, let's see. You can only say, let's see, for so long until your spirit is going to be broken and tired. And so what do? You create this Groundhog's Day. You create this, I wake up, I do this, I go to bed, I made it through the day. And then you do it again the next day, and then you do it again the next day, but you're not really getting anywhere. And so what I encourage you to do on this Groundhog's Day, it's interesting. Groundhog's Day is all about like us waiting to see, right? Will the groundhog see its shadow? Will it not? Will we have more winter? Will we not? Right? Like we're so dependent on all these outside factors. Is this planet retrograding? Is it direct? Is the moon full? Like, stop. And even as an astrologer, I'll say like, stop. Stop looking at the planets as like this validation of green light, red light. Stop looking at the groundhog to be like, tell me what's going to happen, right? I mean, use it as insight, use it as intel, but don't use it as a way to stall. Don't use it as a way to think that depending on what happens, it's going to dampen your life. Or, so on this day of Groundhog's Day, again, when we're waiting to see, will he see his shadow? Will there be more winter? Which prediction, I think, will the groundhog see its shadow? I'm kind of feeling yes, to be honest. But that could just mean that we have more shadow work to do. Again, we're still in winter, which is why, again, I don't love that January 1st, our new year, is smack dab in the middle of winter. We literally have winter solstice, December 21st. We have the holidays. Then it's like, okay, everyone, start fresh and strategize. I'm cold. Like, what? It's dark outside. Who wants to, up-level their life? And it's just like so not conducive or in the flow. I am all for using winter to build, to tend to our shadows, to do exactly what I was sharing before. Take inventory of your life and really reflect on what needs to change. And it's less from a physical perspective, which is what we put the emphasis on January 1st, to distract ourselves from the energetic transformation that you'd like to see happen. Why can't we be a little bit more of a hermit? And while we're a hermit, we're not just sitting at home scrolling on Instagram. We're not just distracting ourselves with Netflix, but we're really taking a look at how we're living our life and how come spring, our energy can get a refresh, how we can cancel out old ways of doing things. We're not piling so much on that what we really want to do keeps getting pushed out and keeps getting put to the bottom of the pile. So if the groundhog does see its shadow, yay, I tapped into something. If it doesn't, yay, less winter. I'm totally here for that from a sunshine perspective. But I really want, if you're taking anything out of this so far, I want you to take out the notion that you don't have to wait for your life. You don't have to be in a mode of let's see. You don't have to fear commitment. You don't. You don't have to wait for approval or answers or insights from the world, because guess what? It doesn't have them. It may offer some insight, but you are a unique individual on this path with a really special journey. And the more that you honor that, the less you need that outer validation. We look at further at the energy of today. 2/2/2022. 2 is all about your relationship with yourself, with the world, with other humans, with the divine. And what a better moment, opportunity than on a day loaded with 2s to focus on that, to strengthen your faith. Okay, where has our faith been the last couple years? I feel like when the outside world gets so heavy and so distracted, we forget about our faith. We forget about the fact that we chose to be here. We ignore that we have potentially, I mean, not everyone does, but have scratching herself. We ignore that we have a divine connection, that we came from a beautiful place, that we have source to help us. And what does your faith look like right now? Because whenever you say, okay, I'll do that later, you're saying, my faith isn't really that strong right now. Or we're leaning too into faith, and we're kind of in that, being in a space of faith doesn't just mean like womping out or just being like lazy on the floor. Like, oh, I'll just surrender. And you just surrender and you just plop down. That's not surrender per se. Surrender is like, I'm going to surrender into my life. I'm going to surrender into what matters. I'm going to surrender into what's meaningful for me. And from that space of surrender, I'm letting go of my attachment to the outside world, to my judgments, to everyone's opinions, and I'm surrendering into myself. I'm surrendering into my being. I'm surrendering into my plans. And guess what? The universe swoops in at that moment and will help you manifest and will help you expand. And will help you find the energy and the resources and the ways to keep that flowing. But, surrender isn't this like, don't do anything. It's like, I think we're confused what it means to drop in, or to receive. 2 is a feminine number. And 2, being a feminine number is about receiving love and support. Receiving, from a space of knowing it's all coming together. Knowing that if you prioritize your life in a way that feels sensible and manageable, the rest will come through. It has to. Today, so if we add up the numbers, 2 + 2 = 4, plus 2022 = 6, that equals 10, which you could also say is 1. So it's almost like today is like the beginning and the end for you. In some ways, what are you ready to close out? What are you ready to move on from? And then also, at the same time, what are you ready to start? What are you ready to move into? And again, can you trust that you're allowed to rebuild, that you're allowed to recover, that you're allowed to grieve the life that was a couple years ago? I can't tell, I still miss my life pre-2020 and that trajectory. I don't want it back per se, but I miss it. And I had to grieve it. And I had to say goodbye to it. And now I'm in a space of rebuilding and renewing and recovery and knowing that I will be taken care of if I stay committed to that. Again, that's surrender. You're taken care of when you commit to the journey and being in your feelings and being receptive to your heart. That can open so much up for you. And so the question becomes, are you willing to go there. Coming off the Lunar New Year, the Lunar New Year is based off of the Chinese zodiac. The moon is always new in Aquarius when we have the Lunar New Year. And so the Lunar New Year was on February 1st. And having it in Aquarius, I love, because I'm very into the Aquarian age and this idea of finding your own truth, being innovative, being resourceful, finding your community, recognizing you don't have to do this alone. But that doesn't mean that you do it with people that bring you down, right? Or associate yourself with individuals that just don't seem to speak the same language as you. Who speaks your language? Who can you talk to? Who's going to, when you say, oh, I'll do that later, who's going to say, what does later mean? Tell me more about this later. What does later look like? Do you want me to check in on you later? Because I will, right? That support, that openness. And again, that speaking of the same language. It's also the year of the tiger. Kind of funny. We got the groundhog and the tiger. What a fable. And the tiger is about being courageous and brave. It's about being fiery and respectful. The tiger knows when to lean back and rest and be calm. And it also knows when to charge ahead and be bold and vivacious. And so how can you embody the tiger this year? What does the tiger mean for you when you think about it? Play with that a little bit. But overall, everything that we're kind of talking about is all around this energy. The power is in your hands. It really is. The choices are yours. You can say, but there's sure. You can give me a laundry list of reasons why you can't. But I prefer you to look at all the reasons why you should try, why you should have faith in this working out, why you should honor the unique reasons that you're here. Your soul knew it wanted to be here on earth at this time. It knew there would be something for you. Can you trust that? Or do you want to trust what everything in the outside world is telling you? Your job, your family, your environment. Who do you who do you want to give your power to? Friends. So many times I'm with a client and they're like, what should I do? And they're worrying about the other person more than they're worrying about themselves. Honor the other person. Respect the other person, but do not give your power to the other person. You hold the power and you say, how do I want to handle this situation? And do it in a way where I don't give it away. Where I'm not waiting around to see if the groundhog sees its shadow or not. Where I'm not making sure, okay, are you okay? Are you getting what you need, other person? Because how many times have you given other people what they needed and you still forgot to give yourself what you needed? You were still at the bottom of the list. You were still underneath the pile. You were still in later mode. So use February as a month to deepen your relationships all across the board, to take inventory of your life and really be honest with yourself. Look at the last week, because it will be very telling if you look at how you handled every day the last 7 days. And ask yourself, where can I expand from here? Where can I move some things up on the priority list? Where can I make some commitments? Where can I find some things to look forward to? Where can I say, okay, financially, this isn't where I am, but financially, this is where I see myself. How can I open up into that? How can I continue to have faith in my circumstances and what I feel called to welcome into my life? If you're looking to expand your family, if you're looking to deepen your relationships, that's all possible, but you cannot fixate on what isn't possible in this very moment. Just because you don't have it now does not mean you won't have it later. Now, this is a more empowering way to say later, because it's a journey, it's a progression, it's an advancement. It's not the put off later. It's not the procrastination later. And usually we procrastinate because we're overwhelmed, because we're lacking faith, because we don't see the point, because we are so burnt out that we don't even have the capacity to wrap our heads around getting to what we need to for ourselves. So give yourself that space to scale back, to trim some of the fat, so to speak, to wean out circumstances or obligations that are just asking too much of you. And yes, I've dealt with this before. It might feel a little lonely at first. It might feel a little isolating. It might feel awkward to have space. I don't know about you. Sometimes, like in the past, when I would create space for myself, it was so strange. I'd fill it back up again. And I'd fill it back up again with obligations, commitments, things that would burn me out again. And then I'd be burnt out. And then I'd be in a trance of burnout. And then before I know it, I'm in this Groundhog Day and I'm struggling and I'm just trying to catch up. And that is not why I came here. I didn't come here to feel like I was behind. I came here to feel like I was advancing, like I was evolving, like I was living, like I was loving, like I was thriving, like I was making magic, like I was following the cosmic cues. That's why I came here. So if you feel like your life is behind, if you feel like you're always playing catch up, if you feel like your vision board just says, okay, I'll get to it later, something needs to give. Something needs to change. And I can guarantee there's nothing that the outside world is holding on to or holding out on for you to hear. Okay? There's nothing you need to wait around for to get started. You can get started in this very moment. Take what resonated with you from what I shared and start making some shifts. Start playing around with your energy. Again, I'm not saying do more. Feel more. Raise your awareness of yourself from an inner perspective. Be more in receiving mode. Figure out ways that you could surrender and yet still have life happen. Let this be more of a dance. And have fun. Have fun again. How can you change up your routine? It could be little things. Take yourself out to dinner. Go on a different walk than you normally do. Take a one-night getaway. Have something, it doesn't have to be as big. Now I'm going to go on a cruise. All right. Well, if you like cruises, go for it. But start small and show your system, like, yes, I can handle change. Yes, I can handle commitment. Yes, I can change things up. Yes, this is part of my life. If we keep waiting around, again, we're just saying, like, look at your last 7 days. Look at your last 2 weeks. You're saying, this is how my life goes. And I don't really do much in my life. Change it up. Insert fun little things. And then you're going to realize that the next 7 days, the next 2 weeks are going to have these little fun things inserted. And that's how your life gets to be. Think about people you look up to and admire. Do you like them because they're in Groundhog's Day? Because they do the same exact thing every single day? Because they put off priorities? Because they don't really let themselves have what they want? Are those your favorite people in the world to follow and be inspired by? Mm-mm. So let yourself be inspired by your life. Let yourself be inspired by what's possible. Limit your control and your hold to what's going on in the world and if it's okay. And really trust yourself in the process and ask yourself, is it okay if I do this? Would it be more not okay if I don't? And see where it takes you. Happy 2022. Happy new season. We have lots of fun things in store for you. Solo episodes, guest episodes, astrological episodes, meditation episodes, even a new series where we chew into reality television. Because you know how I feel about Bravo TV. I was just catching up on Summer House and the ideas were churning. So I love it. Love you. Connect with me offline. The best way is through my membership, the Cosmic Channel. You can find it on my website, daniellemercario.com. If you're not subscribed to the show, that would be so significant. And don't say, oh, Danielle, I'll just subscribe later. No. What did you not listen to me the last half hour? There is no later. There is only now. So now you subscribe. Now you hit that little tap, tap. Give me a good little 5-star review. Maybe you even write a review because you're like so in the energy of not putting things off and being like, yes, I'm going to do this. Leave me a review. Do all the things. All right. I'm going to leave you be because you have a lot on your plate and a lot to think about and a lot to digest. And I freaking love you.